Good morning and welcome. My name is Michele Jutrisa and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up here in New South Wales, Australia. Now I'm just trying to get my mouse to work here. I'm sort of overcrowded with stuff and I've got stuff everywhere and ink all over my fingers. And let's see, let's pop this up on chat. So if you're here, please jump on, say hello. Let us know where you're from. Yesterday I wasn't quite sure whether today I was actually going to make it on here. Now, while I am talking to you, I'm just inking up some of my edges of my cardstock that I've already cut in some black memento ink and getting very inky around my fingers while I'm doing it. So just bear with me 1 second and let me just flip my camera down so we can sort of see what I'm doing. So all I've got here is just a dauber and I've got some garden green cardstock here, which I'm just going around all these edges and just highlighting it with a little bit of black ink. And that's just so then it stays out. Now I've just got to see if I can do this little one. This is a little golden glow piece. Just want to just very lightly do the edges of this. I don't want to turn this golden glow into a black piece. Please jump on and say hello if you're here. Otherwise, we'll just keep working along. So today I'm working on some photos of my son, Patrick. He's my youngest out of my 4 boys, and he was an avid, I'm just hoping I'm doing this on the right side. No, I'm not. I'm doing it on the wrong side. I want the dark side. I'm using the 2-tone cardstock here. So just been doing that all the way around the dark, the light side, and I need it on the dark. That'll be right. And he was an avid soccer player. So loves his soccer, still does, and he played soccer with the same boys for many, many years. They started off in primary school playing soccer together in the local soccer team and right through to high school till they were 15 years old. They continued to play together. Some kids left, and a couple of others joined them, but otherwise they were the same group of kids, and I won't say boys because they had one girl on the team, and they were all very loved their soccer and played together, as I said, for many, many years. And it all finished up in the under 16s, and this one particular year they actually won the grand final. So we've got 2 photos, one of the whole team all together and a photo of my son on his own after the game had finished, of course, very happy that they had won. So most of my photos I've got of him playing soccer are very blurry, in the distance, very small, nothing really close up. So I thought, well, we might as well scrap these 2 photos. So it's only going to be a single page layout today. Just trying to wipe off some of this black ink so I don't get it all over my work. Okay then, so let me just bring in my basic white cardstock, which is going to be my foundation. So I've already inked up around all those edges. Now let me just see if I can move this out a little bit so you can sort of see a little bit what I'm working on. So you're going to see my messy desk, unfortunately, but I don't know why it wants to do this, but let's just bring that up to there. Let's just see if I can get a bit more. It's working out a compromise of trying to get my screen big, but And I think that's probably going to be the best I'm going to get. Unfortunately, I can't trying to work this out, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get this any bigger. It's like, how far back and how far forward do we go? Oops, let's just see if we can move that. Get this a little bit straighter. I was just playing with all my bits and pieces. As you can see, I've got quite a big mess around me because I have been working on this. There we go. We've got the whole screen there now in front of you. Okay, so I hope you can see all of that. I'm sorry about the mess everywhere, but I started working on this last night. Now, let me just take a quick drink. Okay, then. So the DSP that I'm going to be using for this layout, of course, is the wonderful match paper that came out about mid last year, I think it is. And it's all based on soccer. And you also had the, whoops, I'm seeing I've got things bent here, the stamp set and the matching dies that also came with this. So what I've done is I've pre-cut most of this, so then you can actually, I won't be having to watch me cut and colour and play with things like that. So let's get started, and let's see if we can put all this together. So the colours in that designer series paper is basically garden green, granny apple green, and blacks. So what I've done is I've picked out, I'll just show you the photos. So they're my photos. So their uniform was actually greens. Let me just bring this back down, bring up chats just in case anyone is on here. Okay, so the uniform was basically green and gold, which is the colours that most of Mittagong work with, because we are known for our iron mines back in the 1800s here in Mittagong. And so most of the Mittagong uses a logo, which is a lion. So the lion was sort of in that bronzy gold colour, so that was their colours. So what I've picked out are these designer series papers. So I've got this one here, which is granny apple green. I've got this one in the black and white because it shows, you know, medals and trophies, and they won the trophy that year. And of course, piece representing the soccer balls. So that's my idea. They're the papers. Now I've already cut these and I've inked around all the edges. I will draw up a sketch. I did find this sketch that I'm using is one from an old Close to My Heart design, and I've just modified it a little bit to suit what I'm doing. So my whole idea is this piece is going to go there. The black one is going to go over here, and they're going to be offset with each other. And they're about ½ an inch in, and then this piece here is going to go in the middle. So I've sort of got a little bit of a up and down effect happening. So what's going to happen is my photo of my son is going to go there, and then the team photo is going to go around about there. Now I don't want them to line up with each other, but I do want some of this to be straight. Now we'll need to get a ruler and make sure that that's straight. Now I've also got a piece of this garden green and a little bit of the gold in the golden glow, which is going to go across there, and that is going to go across the center underneath that photo. So that's the basis of my layout. So what we might do is start positioning that down. I'm also, once I've got the designer series paper positioned, I've decided, I was looking at different things I could do for titles. I wanted the word soccer and then put soccer champions, but I really only want it to be in that area there. So what I've ended up on the stamp set, they've got the word match day, and I thought I'm just going to use that, and I'm going to stamp that up in black. This is just my test one, and I'm going to use my positioning tool hopefully to get that nice and even there, and we'll pop that one there. So that's my idea. So let's go, let's move forward and get this done. So let me just remove my photos. Now, one of my photos I am going to bring it up a little bit because I'm going to have a hidden journaling behind it. So what I want to do now is just adhere these down. So I'm going to use my seal to do this, and I want to pop that one there about there. Now, I want that to be around about 1/2 inch. So let's put some adhesive on the back of this. Now, because this, I don't need to cover this all in adhesive because it is going into a page protector. So I want that to be about there, and that's roughly 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and that's about 1/2 inch there. So might just bring it down. Haven't pushed that down as yet. And that's probably where I want that to go. So I'm just going to give that a light press down. And then this one over here. So again, we're just going to repeat the same thing. And I'm going to pop this down. Again, going about 1/2 inch from my edge. And just bringing it down a little bit. Don't want to bring it too far down. Let's just check our measurements here. This end here can be brought in slightly more. Oh, it's already tacked itself down. See if I can lift that. That's going to go about there. So I think it's not much difference because these two are about the same sort of length, but I just didn't want them both at the same height. I also don't want to have it that I've got getting too close to the bottom here. I wonder if I could bring that down a fraction, because that's going to go across there, and that's just going to go on the edge. There like that. No, I think I'm going to leave all of that like it is. I think by the time I add some elements and things on here, now I do want to now do that stamping up the top there. So I'm going to bring in my stamp positioner. So hiding here amongst all sorts of bits and pieces. And I'm just going to turn this around. Grab our magnets. And I've got my match day already sitting on there. So what I want to do is just line this up. I want to bring this up a little bit so I've got it in the right position. I haven't adhered that down as yet. That's okay, because I probably want to move that word over a little bit. So let me just make sure it is a little bit cleaner. So I don't want to get more ink on myself. what I want to do is have the start of this word, actually probably no, I don't want to sit this onto if there's any black residue of ink from my test one, I don't want it sitting there. That's looking about good. So I want that to go about there. And I'm going to position my magnets on there to make sure that that's all held down. Just want to make sure I've got everything nice and square. I just want to move that up just a little bit. Actually looking like I'm a little bit on the crooked side. Let me see if I can get that all lined up nicely. Just straighten up my title there. Let's pop it back down. And I'm just using the grid just still need to get that just a little bit straighter on that grid line because I'm using the grid there. Let's just move that out of the road. Kind of bring that up just that little bit more. And that's good. I'm happy with that. So let's ink this up. So I've got my Memento ink here. And remembering with our positioner, our ink won't touch the paper until we've pressed it down. And we can go back in and give it a couple of extra ink ups just to make sure that we've got a good coverage. So I've got that there. Everything is lined up and I'm going to stamp. So we can now lift that up and have a look. And I'm just going to give this one more ink up, and I've just inked up my finger with it. So let's just get that ink off my finger while I can. Pop this down, making sure everything is lined up again. Everything is nice and square. And we're just going to give it one more push. Beautiful. So I'm going to pop that aside and I'll clean that off later on. But I am actually quite happy with that. So there's our title on there. So now I can pop this one on here. So let me grab my seal again. This is such busy paper, and everything is all the same colour with just that, all greens, with just that hint of the gold in there. So I've used Golden Glow as my gold colour. I just want to bring that up a fraction more. And that's going to go there like so. So I'm just going to take this away for the moment and bring in these two because I do want to glue. Well, what I want to work out is if I'm going to pop those onto there and then that directly underneath it, or whether I'm going to put the Golden Glow strip on top of the green. So this photo is going to go about there. And then this one is going to go there. So if I'm going to pop this onto my glass mat here, I probably want that at about the 10.5 centimetre mark. Now what I might do is I'm just going to be very careful here. I may have to trim this down a bit more because I'm going to have my piece underneath here, which is going to be where my journaling is going to go, and it's going to hit that. So I may have to trim this down. So what I might do is, that's where my photo is going to go. It's going to be at that 16.5 centimetre mark. So what I might do is cut this down. I might glue these two together first, because I'm going to pop that on top of that. And that will then help me for gluing this, for cutting it down as well, because it'll be like one piece. So I'm just going to use my multi-purpose glue here and just put a very fine bead of glue right along that length. And then I'm going to stick that on the edge, because I just wanted a little bit of that golden glow just to be on there. So I said I wanted to cut this at 16.5. I'm going to cut it at 17. Like that. I'll need that again in a minute. Then let's remove that piece out of the road for the moment. And then this piece here, is going to go, that's going to go there. I want that probably about that 11 centimetre mark there. So let's pop a little bit of seal on the back of this. So I want that at about there. So let's just have a look. Whoops, let's pop that ink cover back on that ink before I managed to put my whole hand in it. So let's just turn this around, and I'm going to have that. That's at about 11 centimetres there, and before I push this down, I want to make sure that that is about 11 centimetres there. So that's going to go there. And then this piece here, I'm only going to need such a tiny little bit because it doesn't go all the way to the edge. It's only to the edge of the photos. So I'm just going to use my guillotine here and just cut off a piece, which is only going to be about 1.5 inches, because that is going to be more than what I need. So I've still got my black inked edges there. Now I just want to have a look at where that's going to be, whether I can, that's going to go to there. Might even trim that down a bit more. So we might just make that 1 inch. Put a little bit of seal on that. Whoops, we don't want to get it on. just want to remove that little bit of glue I had there before it gets anything on it. So again, we're looking at about 11 centimeters up. And that's going to go about there. And all of that area there, that gap in between the two, is going to get hidden behind my photo, and hopefully this won't have any problems going in and out of there. So that's my whole idea of that. So let's build this photo up first. Or actually, we could even pop this photo down. So let's just do that then. Got bits and pieces everywhere. So I'm just going to again just use some seal. I've cut these photos down and I've mounted them on a piece of willow white cardstock because I'm working on willow white here. And I'm just going to eyeball that, and that is going to go there. It does help having these stripes, making sure that everything is nice and easy. Now I want this photo here to be built up a little bit, so then when I put the journaling in behind, it's going to slip in and out quite nicely. So to do that, what I've done is I've cut some 1 centimeter strips of cardstock. This is just scrap pieces that I had, and I'm just going to build these up. So I think I'm probably going to build them up into sets of 3. And I need 2 lots, 1 for each side and then 1 for the bottom, so then the journaling has got a stopper at the end. Now I haven't measured the lengths of these as yet. All I've done is just measured the width of my cardstock. So there's 2. So you just need to add a bead of glue onto that. And just keep layering this up until you've got the height that you need. Now you could use dimensionals if you want, but this just gives me a constant width. The adhesive strips are a bit too thick because they're a little bit thicker than your dimensionals. So this I can sort of control the height that little bit more. So let's pop another one on there. So I've already got 3 on that one. So there's 2 there, so we need to just build up 1 more. I haven't written my journaling as yet, so my journaling I probably won't finish it, but I'll give you an idea of what I'm looking at doing, because I'm going to print that up on the computer. I thought at one stage I only had a little bit to say, but when I started really thinking about it, I thought, well, I've actually got quite a bit to say, because this, as I said, this team played together with just only 1 or 2 leaving and 1 or 2 joining within that whole period of time. So once I've done all of that, my photo is 6 inches, which is about 15 centimeters. And what I want to do is cut this down. So these are already at 15. So if I grab my photo, I can pop 1 on each side. And then we need to cut 1 down to go across the bottom of it. So let's just pop a little bit of glue here. Now my mat on this is 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So I'm making my journaling piece a little bit narrower than that, of course, because it's got to fit on the inside. So I think I cut it at about 8 centimeters. So you're looking at about 7.5 to 8 centimeters for that journaling. Now I'm not taking this right to the edge. I am leaving a little bit of a gap on one side or on both the sides. So it's not going to be flush with that outside edge. It's just probably about 1 millimeter in, just so then there's no chance of it being poking out. Now this one here across here, I just need to trim this. So let's put a mark on there, and let's see if I can cut this with my guillotine. It might be a bit too thick. So let's see how we go. So I've got a mark there, and that mark is at about 7.5. So probably we'll have a look in a minute. My journaling piece is probably going to be about 7 centimeters. So that's going to fit just in the bottom there. And that's leaving me plenty of room. Now you could move this up higher if you wanted to make a smaller journaling piece. I'm putting it down there because I think by the time I've said what I want to say, if I've got a little bit left over at the end, that's fine. I don't want to have to sort of leave myself too short of room to write. And of course you can adjust your font size to fit. So I do my journaling on Word, and I use a text box to justify the size of it, and you can either print it up with the text box around it and just trim it away on the inside of that text box, or what I do is I turn that text box to white, which means that then it doesn't print at all. So there we go. So what I've done now is I've created a bit of height, and hopefully if I grab this piece here, which I did I've cut it at 8, so I'm going to have to trim that down a little bit more. So let's just do that now. So we've got that ready. So I'm going to take it to that 7.5. So now that piece will fit in there quite nicely. Now I've got it a bit longer. As I said, I haven't done my journaling as yet, so I'll probably end up cutting another piece to be that journaling strip, but I've yet to work out how I'm going to do the pull on this. So it's sort of like whether I would use something like this, trim this back down and use this tab here in the garden green as my pull, and put my date on there, or whether I will somehow use one of these pieces here. This is a tag that comes with the designer series paper that I've cut out, but I won't be using the whole tag. If anything, I'll cut it a bit smaller, but I haven't really made up my mind. The other idea with this was to use this punch. I've actually got the die, but I think the punch is still available, and cut out another one in the paper to match that, which is another idea. So let's adhere this piece down. So we're going to remove that, and I'm actually going to adhere this down with the glue rather than the seal, because I want to make sure that I don't get any adhesive where I don't want it, and I'm only just going to put a thin bead on there. Now, I need to make sure that it's where I put my fingers is the biggest problem. See, I've already got glue on my hands. So we want this to be covering up those, and I want it to be higher. I don't want it to be at the same. Probably move that across that little bit more. So that's going to be at that sort of height there. And then our journaling piece is going to fit in there, but it's going to be cut down to the height of the card. So about 1/2 inch is going to eventually come off that, and that's going to go there. So that's where we're up to so far. So let's have a look what else I've got. So I've got a whole stack of bits and pieces here. I was initially thinking of using this. This is another piece from the designer series paper that can be cut. I fussy cut that out, and I was thinking of popping that onto there, but then I thought maybe it's a bit too big. Because we don't have a lot of area here. I've only really got this bottom section here to add any of the these sort of embellishments onto here. So that is one idea. Another idea is this. Now I've cut this out in the smoky slate, I think, but I've also cut one out in white because I just wasn't quite sure whether I might. I didn't want this to be stark white because there's a lot of white in here, and white on white, something might get lost. So that's why I sort of went that smoky slate. It's in between, so I'm not quite sure yet whether I will actually lay that and just move it across a little bit so you get like a shadowing type of effect. The other idea I have is I've stamped this image, and even though we don't have the garden green in the blends, I've coloured this in using Old Olive and Mossy Meadow. It's sort of not really the right tones, but I think we can get away with it. So let's just take that piece out. I've also used the die cut to cut the soccer ball. Now, it doesn't actually have a circle to cut the back of it in white because I really didn't want the colour coming through. So what I did there is I've taken one of the die cuts, which is just like that, and I've then grabbed, I just found a stitched circle from the Stylish Shapes that I had lying around, and I just added a bit of multi-purpose glue to the back of the soccer ball die cut. There is a circle die cut in this, but it is actually bigger than this ball because it is and I'll show you in a minute, you also have a stamp of a ball that you can use. Pop that onto there, let that dry, and then with my scissors I just fussy cut around, and I cut it with my scissors at a slight angle, just so then it was slightly on the inside of the black die cut. So hopefully it doesn't show through. If you are concerned about that white showing through, let me just finish this. Talking and cutting at the same time doesn't really work. What you could do is get your dauber, if you're concerned about that white edge being seen, get your dauber with a bit of black ink and just go around those edges there, and that will just hide, that'll just turn the edges of your white cardstock black, and you won't see that. So I'm just going to do it on this one as well. There's enough ink in that dauber left over from what I was doing before to do this again. You can do this a lot on any die cut image, particularly if you're using the two-tone cardstock and you don't want that white to show, just grab the corresponding ink and a dauber and just go around your edges just to remove that white edge if you don't want it. So that's how I've done those soccer balls. So the other soccer ball was this one here, which I've stamped up in black memento, and that one there probably didn't come out as well as, say, this one here. And then I've just die cut that with the circle die that does come actually with the set, the dies. So I just sort of feel that this is just going to be that little bit stark. This is sort of a biggish ball. Could use that, gives you a little bit more grey, but I'm quite liking that black. I think it just stands out that little bit more. Let's just keep playing and seeing what else we've got. We've also got a whistle. We could even, with that, just got to see whether I can find some thread. I do have, I'll just use this new pack, some white baker's twine. I've done the whistle in basic grey. I think white thread would be better. Just give you a little bit of bit more detail to the whistle, because usually it's hanging around your neck or around the umpire's neck or in their mouth, one way or the other. Pop that into there. And I would just bring those two little ends there. So this is a small piece of baker's twine. And just tie a knot in the ends there. Just trim that off. Pop that up onto a dimensional, and we can also add that to our piece there. And if we wanted to, we could put a bit of glue on the end of that knot just to hold it in the position you want to have. So that's there. You also have in this set a green grass, so we could probably add a little bit of grass underneath that if we wanted to, just to go across to just to ground this whole area. And the other thing too, which they've got a trophy in the dies. So I just sort of thought, well, we have to have a trophy in there because they did win. So what I want to do is just create a little bit of an element there. Now, I do have a little bit of a spot here, and I'm not quite sure as yet what I'm going to pop in there. We might add some more words or something. So let's just have a look at this and see if we can position some of this, because I actually think I really like what I've got there. Now, it's whether we use that, or maybe I do need that and maybe offset it a little bit. I think we might give that a go, because I think there's a lot of darkness happening here, and that white is just sort of opening that up a little bit. So let's just put just a little bit of glue along those edges there. Don't need too much. I'm not putting it top and bottom. And I'm just going to pop this over the top, and just to form a little bit of a shadow line. So that's going to go then in here. And I don't want to have that on the straight. I do want to have it on a diagonal. Now we could just pop the grass onto there if we wanted to. And let's just have a look. Got the shirt, the ball, our whistle, which I'm going to pop on a dimensional. And we have got our trophy. Maybe the trophy will go about there. Do I want that green there, or do I want to have it down here? There is also another die that cuts off little tufts of green. Also, too, when I cut these green pieces, what I did was I cut a full strip. And these pieces, this piece here actually came off there. I cut a strip which is about 1/2 inch in width, and then I laid my die, because only the top edge of the die, this edge here, is the only piece that cuts. It doesn't cut the bottom. So what I did was I layered the die flush with the edge there and die cut it, and then just went across and die cut it. I think it was about 3 times or something. So I ended up with this piece here, which could also become grass if you wanted to have more grass going right across there. So that was just another option there. Could also have, and we could have cut this down. So if you use that, you can cut it down just to fit into there, which actually I wouldn't mind doing. I mean, this is much nicer grass piece, but why not use what we've got? Because this piece here is not quite long enough. I don't want that going right across, because then it looks like this is not the right length. But what I might do is I'm going to trim that there. I'm going to trim that a little bit longer. And I'm just going to lift that up there and just have a look. Pop that on there like so. So that's just one thing that you can do. And I would probably trim that there just a little bit more. We could bring all that down a bit. Or I can bring this up. Don't want to bring it up too high. I think if I'm going to use that, I need that at the edge. Put that there. I like the idea of the ball sitting underneath that grass. I think I quite like that. Okay. So I wasn't intending to use this piece, but you know what? It just makes too good a grass looking bit. Just going to pop a little bit of glue on here. Don't want to go too close to that end, because I think I want to trim that down a little bit more. Just lift that up, and that can then slip in underneath there like that. But I just want to be careful, because I want to be able to lift that up. So I want to have that probably going across there. So let's just pop a little bit of glue on the back of here and here, and I'm just going to put a few dobs of glue in there and across the top. Just a couple of little dots there, and I want that to go across all of that. So I'm just going to hold that down for a second. I want the ball to sit underneath there, and then that shirt can go at about there. So I'm just going to use glue for this. Now, as I said, I did use on this shirt, I used Mossy Meadow, light and dark, and then I've used a little bit of Old Olive inside the neckline, and then I've used Daffodil because I don't have the blends in the Golden Glow, so I used the dark Daffodil Delight for the trim. Let's just pop a bit of glue in the middle there. Just want to tuck that in underneath that grass so it looks like it's all sitting in the grass. Now, there we are. We want to pop that up on a dimensional, and let's just work out where we're going to pop this trophy. I want to pop that trophy on next, and I'm using the dark side of the Golden Glow here. Just putting cut little dots there. Sort of wanting everything to angle. I don't want to have too many different angles. I've got Patrick looking this way, so I want to have these sort of looking about there. Let's just grab. So I think I'm only going to end up with just one cluster there, and I just want a mini dimensional. Just one mini dimensional to go on the back of the whistle. And then I'm just going to put a little dab of glue just about there, not too much. Just want a little bit of that just to hold that like this. So it's just underneath that knot. So that is actually getting to be where I want all this to be. I don't want too much on here. The only other thing I was thinking is, if I find the stamp set again, the sentiments on here is, well, we've used Match Day. We've got Let's Go. Well, thanks for everything. Doesn't fit. That's more for a card. Your biggest fan, no. Goal, no. Let's Go could go on here. Something I wish I had more of, which was more. I did buy some. Now I wonder what I've done with them. More sentiments that I can use. Lately I've put things away and I don't know where I've put them. As just like little comments. Just wondering, is there anything else? Got this one here. This is an old Stampin' Up set. Love this moment. Never forget. It doesn't really work, I don't think. What a day, memories. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just have a look. Let's go and see. We could stamp that about there, also in the black. The other thing we've got with this set too is it does come with these stars. So let's just pop a few of these stars around because I don't think I'm going to pop any down there. So you've got white and black, and they're quite thick. They're like a puffy, what do they call them? Yeah, they're a puffy sticker. Wonderful Stars puffy sticker. So we could put a few of these up and around here. There's one there. One there. Put one there. We could put one there. There. I was thinking at one stage of even putting some splatters or something on this, or not so much splatters, but some inking. But I thought I wanted to keep it a clean page as much as possible. Could leave that off and just put a couple of. I mean, so far I've just used the black stars because I just wanted the black to be. I think the white might just get a little bit too lost in it because there is a lot of white, but I need another group of stars or something over here, I think. So I'm wondering. Just don't know about that. Could bring in some of these sort of pieces as banners. Let's just have a look. Let's have a quick play because we're already at an hour, so I'm trying to keep this as not too long. These are some of the pieces that see if there's any more. I think that one. Did I have another one? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's another striped one somewhere because we had that out. Where did I put it? There it is, because we're looking at that one to maybe add. So we're going to have possible that coming up through there, but that's going to be cut down. Whoops, that hadn't adhered yet. So we did a bunch of 3. Is it going to look funny coming from there? I think it is. Don't want to add too much in here. I am just going to cut this and let's have a look because we don't need the whole tag. Pop that one to there. Let's have a look at this. even if we took a little bit more off that one, because I don't want it to be the same height as that. So let's just pop. How is that looking? That little bit in there, just as a little bit of a extra interest. We're sort of so close to the edge, I don't want to add too much more there. That's sort of, to me, that's getting a bit too... Just not quite sure. So you're not going to see that. No, it's too close to that. Too close to the edge. No, I don't like that. I'm not even quite sure whether I like those there. But it does need something there. I'm just not quite sure. Don't want to add another. Okay, let's grab that stamp. Let's stamp it onto my bit of scrap piece here. The only way we're going to know is let's stamp it and test it, because it may be just all it needs is just that little bit there, because it doesn't need a huge amount. Just making a little test piece there to see how that looks. Got little bits and pieces all over the place here. I'm just trying to find the pieces that I cut off. There it is there. Let's remove that, because I think that's going to be... don't know. There was one other, this one here, which is a completely different stripe. Might help if I cut it straight rather than... That was very crooked. Just having a bit of a thought here. Now, post-it note, do I have one here that I can use? I usually have stacks of them around. Let's just see if I've got... Oh, I found, see some. There we go. That's what I need, just this little tag piece. All I want to do is just put an extension onto that. Just going to flag this end a little bit. And that could end up being just a nice little bit, and we could add a few more of these around that. Okay, let's just... Just going to add a little bit of glue onto that. I want that to go just in there. And then I can just add another one, 2, 3. And I think that that is going to be that. So all I have left now to do on this is to add my journaling, which is going to go onto this piece here, possibly with this on top. Like so. And then you'll only probably see, if I just cut this down a little bit, there's only about that much there to come off. That will then fit into there and just get hidden in there. I don't want to push it in there too far because otherwise I'll never get it out. Like now. With that onto there. And then I might even put a hole in there to have another piece of string coming from that. But I think that is going to be it. And then on there will also be the date. So there you are. That's my page for today. I hope you've enjoyed that. Something a little bit different, something a little bit simple, but it was just very busy papers for me, and trying to work out something that was going to work without having too many, like there's three busy papers. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that gives you inspiration. I've now got to go and do my journaling. So thank you for joining me today, and I will catch up with you maybe next Saturday as we do more scrapbooking, or even on Friday my card making. So have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you later. Thank you very much for joining. Bye for now.